You weren't raised to be a man. You were trained to be a buffer between your mum and her loneliness. When her man failed her, she turned to you. She wrapped herself in your presence, made you her warmth, her emotional husband, her safety blanket. And you kept her warm with silence, with obedience, with guilt. Now you're a grown man, you've got a wife, you've got kids, but the cord never got cut. You're still tied to your mother's moods. You're still tangled in her needs. You're still waiting for her approval while your wife waits for your strength. And every time you reach for her body in bed, she feels it. That invisible umbilical cord still hanging, still attached right there above your dick. And on the other end of that umbilical cord, your mama, playing it like an emotional puppet string. That's why your wife pulls away. That's why the fire's gone. Not because she doesn't love you, but because no woman wants to make love to a man who still belongs to his mother. It's called maternal enmeshment. It's when a mother makes her son responsible for her emotional needs. It starts early. You're praised for being the only man she can count on. You feel important, needed, safe. But it came with a cost. She taught you to protect her, but at the expense of yourself. She needed you to understand her, but she never taught you how to understand women. She gave you love in exchange for obedience, and now you don't know how to love another woman without feeling guilty. You don't know how to commit to your wife without betraying your mum. You don't know how to fully choose your family because part of you still belongs to hers. Here's some clues that you might be maternally enmeshed. You call your mum more than your wife. You soften your tone for your mum when she disapproves, but you go cold when your wife challenges you. You don't notice it, but your mum inserts herself into your marriage through money, opinions, or emotional leverage. You say, I don't want to hurt her. But the truth is, you're terrified of what happens when she's not proud of you. Your wife raises an issue, and instead of facing her, you triangulate with mum. You don't know how to say no to your mother and yes to your wife in the same sentence. And your wife? She's in the visitation room, hand pressed against the glass, watching the man she loves behind emotional bars. He doesn't even know they're there. You're in the prison of your mother's approval, a sentence you never agreed to serve, but one you're still carrying out. You sit there, close, but untouchable. You're wanting her, reaching for her, but the wall won't let you through. And over time, she stops showing up. She stops pressing her hand to the glass. Because how long can a woman wait for a man who won't walk out of a cell that's already unlocked? That's where desire dies, not with the scream, but with silence, with the slow heartbreak of loving someone she can't quite reach. She feels like the other woman in your life. She sees you fold for your mum, but go silent when she needs something. She sees how quickly your mum gets a reply, but how long she waits for your presence. She's trying to build a life with you, but she can feel the pull of that invisible cord, and she's sick of having to compete with a ghost. She's not angry because you're close with your mother. She's angry because she never got all of you. And she knows she never will. Not until you cut that cord, and you have to do it yourself. But let's stop here for a second because I want to make this ultra clear. This isn't some twisted story where the man is broken and the mother is a monster. This isn't Psycho Mother. There's no corpse in the attic. You are like this because you care, because you're loyal, because you were raised, maybe even praised for being the steady one, the good boy, the one who could handle things. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you good. And it means you have something rare, empathy, which is the opposite of narcissism. And if you're the wife listening to this, that should actually bring you relief, because your husband isn't selfish or manipulative. He's self-sacrificing. He's emotionally attuned and deeply loyal. His problem isn't ego, it's over-responsibility. He's not trying to dominate anyone. He's trying to protect everyone. And the solution isn't for him to stop caring. It's to start leading with boundaries because he cares. Narcissism, you can't fix that. But this is fixable because he has a heart. He just hasn't learned how to guard it and use it at the same time. So what happened? That care, that goodness, it got redirected. Not by force, not by manipulation, but by a woman who was doing the best she could with what she had. And your mum, she's not evil, she's human. Maybe she was hurt by a man, maybe she was abandoned, maybe she raised you in a culture where sons stay close, they stay loyal, they stay small. Maybe she just loved you fiercely and she never learned how to let go of the little boy you used to be. Sometimes it's trauma, sometimes it's a tradition, sometimes it's just too much love without enough release. Whatever the reason, this isn't about blame. It's about finally seeing the invisible structure, the invisible contract you were both locked inside and choosing to step out of it. Not to abandon her though, but to become the man she never got and the one your wife has been waiting for all along. This isn't about picking sides. You don't need to choose between the woman who raised you and the woman you married. You weren't made to cushion emotions, you were made to carry them with calm, with strength, with truth, and with compassion. Because when you treat your mother like she's fragile, she stays that way. And when it's you and your mother emotionally linked against your wife, she doesn't feel loved, she feels outnumbered, unwelcome in her own home. You weren't made to be a buffer between two women. You were made to be a man for both, in different ways, with the same strength. Your mum didn't mean to trap you. She just didn't have a man beside her. So she wrapped herself in the only protection she had, you. She made you her safety blanket, and you kept her warm with obedience, silence, and guilt. But it's time to throw that blanket in the fire. Not because you don't love her, but because it's time she stood beside a man, not clung to a little boy. Your wife shouldn't be married to a boy who flinches when mum calls. She needs a man who can look both women in the eye and say this: I love you. I always will. But I choose my wife. I choose my kids. I choose to show up for them in the way no one ever showed up for you. Not to hurt you, not to walk away, but because it's time. And you'll see this isn't me leaving you behind. It's me becoming the kind of man we all need. And it's your chance too, to become the mother-in-law and the grandmother you always wished you had. This is your moment. You can stay small. You can keep smoothing over the tension, avoiding hard decisions, pretending you're keeping the peace. Or you can stand up, grow up, and show up fully, finally, as yourself. Not with aggression, not with rebellion, but with quiet strength and unshakable presence. The kind that makes your mother exhale for the first time in decades. The kind that makes your wife want to undress you with her eyes again. The kind that makes you finally feel like the man you were always meant to be. This isn't about blame, it's about inheritance. Your mum did what she could. Your wife's doing what she can. Now it's your turn. Don't repeat the pattern. Don't pass down the same quiet confusion to your kids. End it. Become the man your mother needed. Become the husband your wife chose. The father your children will trust, not because you were perfect, but because you never disappeared. That's not your family story anymore. It's yours now.